Good afternoon. You are just in time for Africa Speaks, the KTN show that speaks to the African continent. My name is John-Allan. I'm still standing in for Joy Doreen Bira. Now, today we're going to be discussing Boko Haram and ISIS's new seeming alliance. Is the fact that ISIS has accepted the Pledge of Allegiance by Abu Bakr Shakau, the leader of Boko Haram, that militia group, that terrorist group that has been causing havoc in parts of northern Nigeria as well as different parts of Nigeria itself. Is that Pledge of Allegiance going to change the way terrorism is fought in Western Africa? Could it affect the fight against terror in Western Africa, or really is it a passing cloud? We've got Andrew Franklin, a security analyst, a resident security analyst here for KTN to speak with us about that issue. But first, let's also talk about some more local terror issues. Now, Somalia-based militia group, the Alshabab, last week released a video purportedly showing parts of how they carried out the attacks in Lamu County. And at the Kenyan coast. The highly edited video, however, has got Kenyan security analysts talking about information that can be gleaned from the video that could benefit Kenya's fight against a terror group. This week on Web City, we feature KTN's Asha Mwilu's report on the same.
In 34 minutes and 13 seconds, the Al-Shabaab revealed their bloody rampage in Mpeketoni last June. The video is not an easy watch, even for a former military man.
Wow, this is chilling. This is shocking.
But Mbijiwe says that even with its professional touch, the video could have some loopholes that Kenya can tap into.
If we take all the attacks, these in Mpeketoni, the ones that followed immediately, and then all the way to Mandera, we could establish a pattern and use that pattern to predict, crime trends.
With a very good intelligence system, you can be in a position now to zero in on some of these people, because you realize that in fact, even the person who is doing the documentary, you realize that he's talking with some accents that can easily be traced, and you rule out some other people and you zero in on that accent alone, and you can be in a position now to figure out exactly the dimension that terrorism is taking.
What security analysts think should worry the government is the Al-Shabaab's intention with this new video.
You should also ask yourself why Kiswahili and English, because the essence of this movie or film or all that it is twofold. One is to recruit more jihadists.
The film's deliberate messaging cannot be missed. One that appears to target the emotions of residents perceived to be victims of land injustices. As it is, the security docket's handling of Mpeketoni is still in question. When KTN's investigative team returned to Mpeketoni after the attack, the sentiment was singular: anger.
If we knew they were coming, what did we do to stop them? Were there leads that we ignored?
But even if the government goes ahead to verify the identities of the people in the video, they risk going back on their statement.
There was a reason it was timed for now, because you realize the recording of this video was completely deliberate, very professional. It was part of the planning of the attack. Therefore, even the timing of the release is part of the script.
If we had a resilient community, then this video could have worked against them, because one of the best counter-terror strategy is always to come up with a resilient public. A public that even if they see this video, they will just say, so what?
Since the video was posted 4 days ago, the government has not commented on its release and its authenticity. But according to security experts, as the military mission intensifies in Somalia, Kenyans should expect the group to enhance its presence online.
We'll be discussing that video as well as security challenges in Kenya later on KTN Weekend Prime tonight with Andrew Franklin as well as two other security analysts. also looking into the appointment of the new Inspector General, new Kenyan Inspector General Joseph Boynet. So do tune in at 9 p.m. Now let's move on to something a little less dramatic than terror attacks and videos. Now we all know that Africans are a superstitious lot, but playing on African superstition is becoming quite the fodder for clickable African videos online. Today we feature one prank carried out by South African pranksters, the Boys, on the ogre of legend, the Tokoloshe. Well, the Tokoloshe actually is an ogre of myth, supposed to have one eye and lots of hair. And the people down in South Africa, as well as the people in different parts of the continent, have different ogres to describe various monsters or to talk about various myths that have lessons in them, the Tokoloshe being one of them. Let's see if we can get that video on for you now.
Peak of the day in association with EGGPay.
Getting your makeup done for free with expensive makeup, that is very, very good.
The academy will be looking for character and self-confidence.
That means charisma, that means knowledge.
Mwalimu wanohadu katika mweno ya kazini.
4 of you will be going home today.
I'm seriously traumatized.
John-Allan, please step forward.
No more hide and seek with parking attendants. No more tickets, no more bribes. To pay your parking fee with EGGPay, dial *217#. Enter your details as prompted and create your e-payment PIN. EGGPay. Malipo kwa urahisi.
It's something really good.
If you're not here, you're not cool.
I've been waiting for you.
I'm sorry, I'm late.
KTN leo.
Mimi ni Mwanaisha Kiduga.
Is this a joke? We'll get through this thing together.
How ideal is your space?
We represent Christ that will help change people's lives.
Didn't I tell you it looked great, huh?
Hello, banker.
Interesting, Donan.
Not for murder.
Welcome to KTN Weekend Prime.
My name is Yanofula.
Pesi kuna mahasra.
Nitakumuizo nywele za masikio na kifuniko ya soda.
Do you mock me? Do you mock me more?
Neo company yenu gani?
Inaitwa John Enterprises kutoka China.
Haya ni makala ya Jicho Pevu.
This is a world of untouchables.
Yeah! Join them, babe! My goodness.
I'm Shanik.
They say you're the bad guy. Who's that? Let's I'm back.
You can have anything you want for free.
I'm here to help. The Wild Bunch is here today.
Drake, I have words for you.
You go freestyle rap.
Freestyle rhymes with snake, but no, he ain't. He's more like a lion. I have 3 roommates. One of them happens to be my ex. Any advice?
It won't work. The male species does not operate like that.
There are boys around. I keep telling their fathers.
That's probably true. They grow up so fast.
You've always been an important guy to me.
It's all love, baby.
We gon' hop to the right, hop to the left.
All right, welcome back to Africa Speaks. We need to apologize for going to break abruptly. We had a bit of a technical issue with that story on the Tokoloshe. It appears the spirit of the African ogre interfered with our technology here at KTN. Well, let me take that intro again just to clue you into what we're talking about. Now, we all know that Africans are superstitious, but playing on African superstition is becoming quite the fodder for clickable African videos online. Now today we feature one prank carried out by South African pranksters The Boys on ogre of legend, the Tokoloshe.
Hey guys, I'm Healy.
Hey guys, I'm Joey.
Today we're doing the Tokoloshe prank. We got a wig and then we tied an eyeball onto it.
It's like a small little animal that like brings bad spirits and like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So people are very scared.
Hey, have you guys seen a Tokoloshe around here?
What?
A Tokoloshe.
Tokoloshe?
Yeah.
No, what do you mean no?
You haven't seen? No, because I saw one here earlier, like just around the bush, like somewhere.
Serious?
Yeah.
What the hell? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh, that was excellent. Hey, Tokoloshe! Tokoloshe! Yeah. Yo guys, just watch out. I saw Tokoloshe jump over the wall. Yeah. I saw a Tokoloshe here.
Tokoloshe?
Yeah. There's a Tokoloshe. Just came and bit my feet. You think I'm joking? It's Whoa. There's someone. I just saw a Tokoloshe down that side. What? Oh my!
Everybody get down like animals.
It's there. It's in there. Are you a security guard?
Yeah.
G4S?
Yeah.
What's your name? Zibonani. I called for because there's a Tokoloshe here.
There's a Tokoloshe where?
I saw it here. Yo, there's a Tokoloshe here. Just watch out. Just watch it. There's a Tokoloshe here. Just. Oh my goodness.
Everybody get down like animals.
Sorry. Hey. Sorry, there's a Tokoloshe here. Guys, thanks for watching the video. Please, if you liked the video, just give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, check out our other videos. Subscribe to us. And yeah, share it with your friends.
Whoa. Oh, jeez.
Let me help you out. Let me help you. Sorry about that. Sorry, man.
The Tokoloshe, ogre of legend in South Africa. The ogre in my language was called Shumaporo. It had one eye, but it was much bigger than the Tokoloshe as described. But let's get into more serious issues today on the platform. We're talking about the Boko Haram and ISIS, the Islamic State, of course, causing quite a bit of havoc and has caught international headlines for the macabre way in which they've been executing some of the people that they've kidnapped and the territories that they've been able to control in Iraq and fighting within Syria and that region in the Levant. But the reason why Boko Haram and ISIS are being mentioned in the same sentence now, not just because they are both terror groups, but because Boko Haram, some weeks ago, Abu Bakr Shekau's, the leader of Boko Haram, pledged allegiance to ISIS and the leader of ISIS, that's Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And just a few days ago, actually about 2 days ago, Abu Muhammad al-Adnani, that's the spokesman of ISIS, the names can be long and confusing, he accepted that pledge of allegiance and in the actual sense implied that Boko Haram and ISIS are now working together. Abu Bakr Shekau is the most prominent terrorist leader to pledge allegiance to ISIS, and Boko Haram, of course, has been responsible for the deaths of over 4,000 people in northern Nigeria, as well as different parts of southern Nigeria. And to help us discuss what this means for the fight against terrorism in West Africa and Africa as well, I've got with me Andrew Franklin. He's our resident security analyst here at KTN to talk about the issue. Now, Andrew, let's start with the allegiance itself. What does it mean for Boko Haram and ISIS to be in some sort of allegiance?
Well, it can be a financial benefit to Boko Haram, and also to facilitate the flow of weapons into Nigeria, into northeastern Nigeria, mainly from Libya, stockpiles in Libya and elsewhere in the Sahelian region. It doesn't really have much benefit for ISIS, other than to reinforce its claim to be a more global organization, in contrapoint to Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
Because after all, interestingly, ISIS and Al Qaeda seem to be competing franchises. I know it sounds absurd to discuss franchises in the same context as insurgencies. And terrorist organizations. But in fact, from the point of view of the internet, the point of view of communications, that you can build your brand and perhaps attract more alienated youth, not just in Europe and the Middle East, but increasingly in Africa, where you have vast numbers of alienated youth, out of work, unemployed, with no real futures. In economies that we all talk about as rising and expanding, but without creating jobs. And a certain percentage of those alienated youth will become radicalized and will drift into actively committing violence. The Boko Haram, which has been operating for the last 5 or 6 years, controls roughly 20% of northeastern Nigeria.
I believe we've got a map of that. We'll just bring it up as we talk,
And has also, of course, branched out or conducted numerous cross-border attacks into Cameroon and Chad and Niger.
As well.
Of course, the border region in that part of Africa is not as well defined, and despite the fact that Nigeria was Anglophone, Niger, Cameroon, and Chad are, of course, Francophone. The tribal groups, the language and religion, but more importantly, the tribal organization.
Let's just speak about the map that we're seeing on our screens right now with respect to Boko Haram's influence in northern and northeastern Nigeria. Could it be used by ISIS to expand into the continent in the way it had described itself earlier on, as having a region called Habesha that would be part of the caliphate of ISIS?
Well, I think ISIS has a lot on its plate anyway in Iraq, particularly with apparently losing to Crete. But also they are facing additional conflict in Syria from other terrorist organizations, as well as Al-Nusra, which is a terrorist organization, and possibly from the Free Syrian Army. But this is still in the future. No, I think if it does anything, it allows ISIS to claim a global, an internationalist label, more along the lines of some sort of globalized jihadist movement, and possibly, if it does draw off attention from where they are operating now, and causes the Western world and the like to the so-called coalition that's bombing ISIS, apparently fairly effectively when they do launch airstrikes. It does cause perhaps the West, the so-called Western allies or coalition to take their eye off the ball, which is in fact should be located in Iraq. The global implications of ISIS victories in the Middle East should not be played down at all. The global implications of Boko Haram, in accordance with that map, there are no global implications. In fact, the global Haram's orientation in northeast units advancing on the capital, as we have seen with ISIS, which broke out of Syria, suddenly seemed to swarm into Mosul, and then to be threatening Baghdad, to the point where 4 Iraqi army divisions broke and ran in November.
Before we discuss what's happening in Iraq, this isn't the first foray, so to speak, of ISIS into Africa. You remember in Libya, a number of Orthodox Egyptian Christians were killed, forcing the Sisi government to bomb various parts of Libya in pursuit of people who presumably were ISIS. So that there seems to be some interest, if not in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, but in the Maghreb.
Oh, most definitely. But I think that's also because of the confused situation in Libya. We're not entirely certain, who's who any longer in Libya. In fact, there's some conflation in Egypt between the Muslim Brotherhood, the previous government that was overthrown by the new president of Egypt, and groups in Libya, where we seem to have a rump government in the east and a rogue general who is now being supported by the West. The bottom line in Libya seems to be the fact that the huge oil supplies are at risk, not at risk of falling into the wrong hands. We have seen ISIS managing to sell oil on the open markets from the areas it's captured in Syria and Iraq. It's the Libyan oil fields that are at risk that they won't be shipping any longer, which further destabilizes whichever government we believe to be legitimate in Libya. The vast armories that were left behind after Gaddafi was overthrown, starting in 2011, those vast armories contain so much conventional military equipment as to stoke, to provide vast amounts of ammunition, small arms, RPG rocket launchers, heavier automatic weapons, which have managed to find their way not only into northeast Nigeria, but of course into Mali, where if it had not been for the French intervention in Operation Serval,
there might have been a big...
would have, we've seen the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb were heading towards Bamako. They were actually, they had swept out of the north. They capitalized on this Tuareg insurrection in northern Mali, and the fact that the government in Bamako had left their troops in the north without supplies and without pay, which then caused the military to overthrow the elected government in Bamako, and more chaos. But in fact, the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb were behaving as a conventional military. They were driving on the capital of Bamako. Possibly they would have declared their own caliphate.
Speaking of which, Boko Haram and ISIS seem to have those kinds of similarities. Just referring to the map again and some of the pictures that you're seeing on the screen, Boko Haram fighters are driving tanks. They've got conventional military weaponry that's behind them and backing them, enabling them to settle in various communities and various territories. What other similarities do you see between the Boko Haram and ISIS that would be able to link them together in some sort of an allegiance?
Well, I think the fact that Boko Haram are using our armored vehicles and tanks, they're not using them against anyone else besides civilians. In other words, these are captured vehicles, captured weapon systems that are being used to rampage through villages and small towns. They're not actually engaging the Nigerian military or any military in conventional warfare. It's questionable what's going on now with the Chadian forces, Nigerian forces, Cameroonian troops who are in armored vehicles and are behaving as conventional forces would do, as are apparently hundreds of foreign mercenaries or military advisors from countries like South Africa who are now showing up in Nigeria under contract to the Nigerian army.
It sounds a bit like executive outcomes is
well, I mean, it has been reborn, but the fact is that with the executive outcomes made a lot of good, positive advances in Sierra Leone before the British then came in with regular troops. In Angola, executive outcomes did in fact restore the Angolan government control over Savimbi's areas. And so yes, but there seems to be a lot of foreign advisors, technical advisors have arrived in Nigeria in the last 2 to 3 weeks, which corresponds with the postponement of the elections. the general elections, and the government's claim, the central government of Nigeria's claim, that they would have the situation under control in northeast Nigeria within 4 to 6 weeks, thereby allowing these elections to take place.
Yeah.
The difference, however, is that ISIS is obviously behaving as a conventional army.
Yeah.
It is a basically a Sunni Muslim movement. It is full of senior officers and middle-ranking officers from Saddam Hussein's military.
Yeah.
Because the ability to take on 4 Iraqi army divisions, which broke and ran and left their equipment behind, in order to mount armored attacks against an opponent, you need fuel, you need weapons, logistics. That means command and staff.
That's true.
Which is the trained military, the people we fired, that is the United States fired in 2004 when we unilaterally and arbitrarily dissolved the Iraqi army. There's a lot of, in other words, there's a lot of trained people in ISIS.
And it would appear there are a lot of trained people in Boko Haram as well. If you remember, late last year, a joint task force barracks was overrun by the Boko Haram. And
well, they were overrun. It is correct, but that joint task force seems to have been abandoned or was no longer operating as a joint task force. It seems to have been turned over completely to the Nigerian troops, who have not, in fact, have not been acquitting themselves very well in their own country. There is a very good reason why the Chadian troops have crossed the border and liberated and taken back certain areas. But when you look at the map, which is, I think, very interesting, is that Boko Haram was exercising influence over those towns. They were not. We don't know what they were doing as far as administering them, mainly because we do know how many hundreds of thousands of refugees, internally displaced people there are in Nigeria, as well as fleeing across the borders into Cameroon. But then, of course, when Boko Haram launches cross-border attacks into Cameroon, into Chad, into Niger, it causes those countries to have their civilians in the border areas heading away from the conflict, which only makes sense. But it further destabilizes that entire region. And that entire region, in any case, has never been that well controlled by the governments.
Let's push forward now. How important is money? I mean, we mentioned money at the beginning of this conversation, but how important is money to the Boko Haram, considering that they seem very, very well stocked in terms of weaponry? How important do you think money would be for them in terms of sustaining their fight?
Well, they need a lot more funding because they're paying their troops. Their troops are fighting. We never see who they are. We estimate them to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 5,000 active fighters. To keep those troops in the field with ammunition and the like takes a lot of money. Now, the ability to tap into ISIS resources, which come from commercial operations, selling of oil, as I think I mentioned already, then there is a lot of funding that comes out of the Gulf. We're not entirely certain whether the funding goes to Al-Qaeda, which is a serious situation anyway. But we also must think that if Al-Qaeda has competition in ISIS, there must be wealthy individuals and groups in the Gulf who are funneling money into ISIS to take on Al-Qaeda. I don't pretend to understand all the shifting sands. I do think it's a matter of great concern. We can't seem to stop the financing that comes out of countries that are ostensibly our allies, perhaps even countries whose air forces and militaries are involved in a coalition to attack ISIS.
All right, but how about aside from money? I mean, that money is important, and finding a way to stop those taps from flowing into Africa in different parts, facing terror challenges is that existential question that a lot of these coalition forces and countries united against terror are facing. But how about technical experience? And I'll just take you back to what we had earlier in the show, the Alshabab video that purports to show what seemed to be foreign fighters marching in rank and shoulder to shoulder with East African terrorists. What about that technical experience? What do you think that could do for Boko Haram's fight?
Well, if you're talking about technical experience, you have to divide that into two. The possibility of foreigners being involved in Mpekatoni was known back in June. The fact that they have revealed that there were a couple of possible Europeans, jihadis, is fine, because that just confirms what the victims, the survivors from Mpeketoni, were saying about what was going on in the 6 or 8 hours that Al-Shabaab was rampaging through Mpeketoni.
Yeah, but how about for the Boko Haram?
Now, for Boko Haram, I think there's a different aspect. They may get more access to global jihadi networks, and more from a public relations point of view. I don't think Boko Haram needs foreign expertise as far as how to employ small arms. In fact, there have been allegations that senior officials in Nigeria, possibly in the security forces, have in fact been working for Boko Haram.
Our conversation, Andrew, has gone very quickly, and I'm going to have to ask you a final question here. How do Western African troops, the coalition of Niger, of Chad, Nigeria, and perhaps other African nations that could get involved, decimate Boko Haram in a way that they cannot have the capacity to raise themselves again?
Well, Boko Haram started is an insurgency. It has its roots in northeast Nigeria. It did not start 5 years ago as a full-blown military. It has grown. What we're seeing now is the possibility of preventing Boko Haram's conventional units and forces from triumphing over the Nigerian military, and actually jeopardizing the state of Nigeria by causing the elections to be thrown out the window, precipitating an unknown cavalcade of events. The troops from Chad, Niger, Cameroon, and elsewhere can in fact destroy or defeat, mitigate Boko Haram's conventional capabilities. As a long-term counterinsurgency operation, however, it's up to the Nigerian troops who have to, and police who have to, in fact, restore order and maintain order inside in their own borders.
And counteract
foreign troops. Foreign troops can only do so much, as we found out in Vietnam and elsewhere. Foreigners can only do so much as far as disrupting an opponent's military operations. It certainly doesn't win. Foreign troops seldom win hearts and minds in any environment. It's up to the national troops to do that.
It's up to the locals. That's a great place to end it. Let's just get into some of the feedback that we've got so far. Stephen says it will take a toll on Western Africa. Of course, the allegiance between Boko Haram and ISIS. It will take a toll on Western Africa unless African states take terrorism and radicalization seriously. Let me see if I can get one more here. Thank you very much. What are you reading? Saying Watching Africa Speaks, and it's a very interesting discussion. Let's see. Lots of feedback here, but I just don't seem to be able to get some more specific to the conversation that we're having here. But many thanks for watching anyhow. And before we wind up, I've got one trivia question for you. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Boko Haram or ISIS. We're going to feature a video by Bob Marley. And the reason that we're featuring the video is that he died somewhere around the period when you came into Kenya a few months back. Do you remember the day?
Thank you, John-Allan. No, I can remember the day I arrived, which was on the 11th of March, 1981. All I remember about Bob Marley is he was singing in Salisbury on April 18th, 1980.
Okay.
And I'd been there previous to that.
Of course, and for the independence celebration, I believe?
I was not there for he was there for the independence celebration. I was there as a tourist during the Rhodesian government's time.
All right.
But no, I'm sorry, you've now, I do remember, however, the various reggae houses in town. Are you going to tell us, John-Allan?
No, I'm not. I'm just going to leave it up to the people watching the program.
Is there a prize?
No prize for this. It's just to exercise and stretch your reggae mind. And of course, the late great Bob Marley's "Stir It Up," one of the huge dancehall tunes coming out of Africa Speaks, and that's how we're going to wind up this afternoon. Peace, love, and harmony, as Bob Marley would like to say. Good afternoon.